Joe tells me it's 6 o'clock, so in accordance with South Carolina Code of Laws, 1985, Section 30-4-80-E, the following have been notified of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. The Herald, the Charlotte Observer, CN2, and WRHI. Welcome, everyone, to our March 17th meeting. I'd like to ask you all to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You have all received a copy of the agenda. Were there any adjustments or corrections?
No, ma'am.
All right, those will stand with unanimous consent. Mr. Bolden should be joining us shortly. And our next item is public participation. I have one card, so Jared Moran? Okay, Morocco. If you'll state your name and address, and then you've got 5 minutes to address the board.
Okay. Well, good evening, members of the Fort Mill School Board. My name is Jared Morocco, and I live on 1090 Dorsey Drive in Fort Mill. I want to return to the resolution this board passed last week regarding the SILFAB facility. That resolution mattered. It was a clear statement that placing a hazardous industrial chemical operation next to schools is unacceptable and that the safety of students must come first. But today I want to ask a simple question. What happens next? Because so far there has been silence. The resolution called on the governor, attorney general, General Assembly, York County Council, and regulators to act. Yet none of those institutions have publicly responded. No timeline, no action, no explanation. So the question becomes whether this resolution will remain a statement or whether it will become a catalyst. The safety concerns outlined in that resolution are not hypothetical. The risk is real. This is heavy industrial manufacturing involving hazardous chemicals, and the situation has not changed. Hazardous materials are still on that site. Children are still attending school nearby. Parents are still asking the same questions they've been asking for months. A resolution should not be the end of the process. It should be the start of their accountability. This board has influence. You represent thousands of students and families in this district. When the school district raises safety concerns, state leaders should respond. If they've not responded, then the pressure can't stop there. Follow up with them, request formal responses, ask what actions are being taken, ask what timeline exists to remove hazardous chemicals from a location next to schools. Because a community heard your resolution and took it seriously. Parents believed it meant that protecting children would now be the priority. And if that is the case, the next step can't be silence. The next step must be action. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. We only have a couple things on the agenda. The next one up is a staff report from Finance. Ms. Lordo.
Good evening, and tonight I'm presenting for you the monthly financials because I was not able to be at the prior meeting because I was at the Financial School Board's Business Officials Conference, so we shifted it to tonight. But I have provided in your packet the monthly financial report for January. And as you can see, total revenues to date, we're 7 months into the fiscal year now, second half of the fiscal year. Total revenues were $188,422,415, and expenditures to date for this time period were $137,922,650. 137 million, let me correct that, 922,000. This is as we would expect. So we are in a positive cash flow of $50,499,000. That is slightly higher than same period last year. And as we often talk about, we look at this as a critical time for where are we with tax collections. I will share with you that after reviewing December and January tax collections, we have collected 96% of what you had approved in the budget for this fiscal year. That's compared to 92% last year. So that is definitely positive for us as we go into the budget plan for next year and as we start addressing where we are with the state funding formula. We'll be talking about that a good bit at the next board meeting as we move forward. But real estate tax collections in January were $58,500,000. Vehicle tax collections were slightly over $2 million, and fee and lieu were $6.5 million for the period ended January 31st. As you would expect, we're now shifting to seeing more local tax funding coming in versus state tax funding, since state funding is allocated over all 12 months of the fiscal year. And primarily, we see our local tax funding coming in December and January. So going forward, we don't expect a lot of revenue to come in on delinquent taxes, but we will continue to receive our monthly vehicle tax collections, some watercraft, and then some other possible smaller tax collections coming in between now and June 30th. But forecasting ahead, you know, I like to start forecasting ahead of where I think we might end the fiscal year. Based on what we saw come in January, I think we could see our year-end property tax collections be about $6 million over what we have budgeted, which will help us as we start planning recurring dollars for next year in the budget. But any questions about the monthly financials? Okay, I'll move on to impact fees. Total collected to date are now $83,142,992. We have collected on single-family units 2,981 units, and multifamily 2,227. So we've collected on a total of 5,208 units. February, we had 3 homes and 8 multifamily, but in March to date, we have had a home and 5 multifamily. So we're tracking to be ahead in March more than we were in February. But our actual collections for February were $255,288. We have continued to draw those funds down as we have been under construction of Flint Hill Middle School. We have only slightly over $400,000 in our escrow for impact fee collections on deposit with the county. So we have now drawn down all of these funds except for a little over $400,000, which we will pick that up on the next larger construction invoice that comes through. Any questions about impact fees? Okay. I'll give you a quick update on where the state budget is since we last met. The full House of Representatives, they've passed their budget appropriations bill. It largely was based on what the Ways and Means Subcommittee passed, which we would expect. They call this the House One version. They generally agree with most of the key points of the House Ways and Means recommendations. The teacher minimum starting pay, as we expected, is still set to increase $2,000. So it will go up to $50,500. We expect that that will be the final. Anything can certainly happen. It still has a long ways to go through Senate Finance and then the full Senate. But because they have now exceeded the $50,000 mark, I think that will be the number. And so that is what we are working with for our local budget projections based on our current teacher pay as well. The next steps is the Senate Finance has on their calendar for their budget discussions the week of April 7th through 9th. So we have a few weeks of delay. And then the full Senate will be April 21st to April 23rd. And then the week of May 5th, the budget bill will return to the House, and then it will go to the conference committee if needed. And most of the time it is needed. So that's the tracking of the budget as it continues to go through the state. Late last week, we did receive our first look at our allocations. We are still going through those. There's a lot of questions circulating around the state because some things significantly changed with how they are funding. Health insurance is one example. They rolled it up into the aid to classroom line item. So you see a large decrease on one line item of the budget. You see an increase. I will share that overall, we pretty much netted the same amount of state funding as this current year. So in netting the same amount of funding, to me, that really means that we lost some funding because we didn't cover the teacher pay. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah.
We started here, we really went down a little bit, and then we were adjusted for the increase in the new dollars that the House put in for teacher pay, but it brought us back up to the current level. So we're just about at a break even. So that's what we are working with now as we start planning the budget for next year to show you and for your consideration is where we are.
So if that
So-
remains the case, then our local taxpayers will be providing the $2,000 increase.
Correct.
For the teacher's scale.
Correct. But as I said, there's still a lot of questions going around among school districts and some clarification of some things. The charter schools were still very successful in gaining new funding from the numbers that we have looked at so far. But we will continue to get more information. Like I say, this came out late last week. So it's still brand new information for us. But we have received the first, what I call the first go round of the House allocations.
What's your gut?
What's my gut?
Yes.
I think these are the numbers we're going to be working with. I don't think, from what I'm hearing, the Senate could always come in and put additional dollars, as well as when it comes back to House too. But I think there's been so much push in Columbia this year for individual income tax reductions and funding to go towards infrastructure improvements that are needed in the state, that I don't think there is really a large appetite to put more dollars into the education funding this year.
Are we running numbers and things along with our friends around the state that are seeing the same situations as we
Yes.
are?
So,
To show them, you paid X for
yes,
benefits last year. This year, you're only going to do Y.
yes.
Nothing has changed here. It's actually gone up in expense, but your funding has gone down.
The districts that I'm in contact with are very similar to ours, such as Lexington 1.
Right.
They have a lot of the same similar characteristics as we do with growth. And their numbers are tracking very close to ours in what they are seeing, as well as the other 3 York County districts. I briefly looked at theirs, and we're all percentages-wise, we're tracking about the same as far as what happened with the formula.
Meaning that it's basically flat to last year.
Yes.
In all cases.
Yes.
Wasn't there some discussion about hold harmless to last year?
There was some discussion about hold harmless, and I have, between when this came out, like last Friday, I have not heard any additional information about what that's going to mean. But there was a lot of discussion about, but remember, the hold harmless was to keep a district from not losing. So if we break even,
Even with additional students?
there was some discussion about that, and that's one of the things that we were stating, that the hold harmless needs to be worded in a way that districts would get a benefit for additional students. But the wording, just like the wording was when we went to this formula, it just holds you harmless to the amount of current funding, so you don't lose.
Yeah.
Do you see what I
That's
mean?
not a per pupil number.
Correct.
It's just a lump.
It's just,
As long as you receive 200 million, end of story, we don't
then
care.
they feel like you've been
Yeah.
kept whole, even though, going back to the teacher pay, we should have at least gotten the increase
Right.
to cover the teacher salaries increase.
And for whatever growth percentage we have, that is a slightly larger share of the entire state student
Correct.
population.
Correct. But I'll give you an example. I looked at the total for the state. So the total new funding I'm going to round these numbers, was approximately 280 million that went into the formula. And traditional districts received 101 million and the charters received 180 million.
Shocking, said no one
And
ever.
how many of them are there?
2. So that's what we are
But
faced
even
with.
with the additional 100 million that
Correct.
traditional schools received, given that we've been the fastest growing, it's hard to
It's
get our head around why we wouldn't
right.
have.
It's all about the proportionate share and not about an amount per pupil. We did ask, and we have received what I call the master spreadsheet, so I can see all the districts, we can
pluses and
see all the
minuses,
formulas, and we will spend some time looking at that further. And a lot of other districts are looking at it further as well.
So that means roughly 60% of the new money is going to charter schools.
Correct.
Correct.
That serve.
Which make up about 20%.
No.
No, no,
Not
I
even?
thought it was like 5%.
8%?
Yeah.
8, something like that.
8% of the
8%
students in
of the
South
students-
Carolina are getting 60% of the
Of the
new
new
money.
money.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify.
And we still do not, it will probably be another 2 weeks before we receive from, the South Carolina Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Office will put out the population percentage, millage percentage numbers. We don't have that, so we don't know how we compare to other districts as far as the millage percentage population growth. That still has not come out yet, so. So I am just working at this point with tax collections and what I know is in the consumer price index amount for funding.
Any other good news to
No other good news on that, sorry. That's the latest that I know. So I like to keep you up to date with where we are and what we're working on right now.
All righty.
Okay.
All right. Our next item is a report from Ms. Pratt, who had an opportunity to attend a national conference. You want to tell us about it?
Sure. National conference is exciting because it is, I think, important for us to make sure we're measuring ourselves against national metrics as well. And as far as professional development for board leadership, I think it's important that we get that nationwide view. There is a lot of energy that comes from being around thousands of people who all want to put public education first. And that is energizing and fun. 2 of the best sessions that I attended that I think really pertain to what we're looking at here. One was on superintendent retention. Having gone through that drama, I don't want to do
it
that
again?
anytime soon. And there was a lot of research that supported that the main factor for superintendent retention is that it's the relationship between the superintendent and the board, and that it only takes one misbehaving board member to make a superintendent leave. So I took that very seriously, and want to make
Not
sure
be the misbehaving board
to
member?
not be the misbehaving board member. And should we ever have a misbehaving board member, to see what we can do to support that person to not be as misbehaving. But I think it was cool. There was a person there who was presenting about the Vanderbilt 360-degree leader, and she has developed that and changed some of the metrics to make it apply to school boards. But she has one for self-reflection for school boards and a 360 survey for school boards. And I thought that might be something intriguing for us to look at and to get feedback on how we're doing. The other one that I think many people in our community have expressed to us that they're very interested in is revamping board policies for a change of school assignment within the district, and how a district larger than ours but similar in expectations of the community, how they went about that process, how they implement it now, what troubles they came into when they first did it, and how successful it is for them now. And I think a cool takeaway from that was they said it is not as much about parent choice as it is parent voice, and that the parents just want to be able to say, I picked this school, sort of like you get to say, I picked this neighborhood, or I picked this daycare for my child, and the parents want that ownership. And that kind of helped me reframe what that might look like for us if we explore options like that. And Felicia Rashad, Mrs. Huxtable, was Claire Huxtable was one of the keynote speakers, and she has very strong South Carolina ties, so it was very neat to be in a room of that many people, and she said South Carolina, and we all went, wah! But she is an amazing speaker, just as elegant as you would imagine, just as motivating as you might remember, and I think we all felt better for having been in her presence, for sure. So it was very good time well spent. And it's nice to have that time with other districts to, compare pictures of your grandbabies or whatever. But, this is my new school. How does your new school look? And stuff. So it was a good weekend.
It has been a few years since I've been to a national conference, but it is also interesting to see just how wildly different public schools are, I'll say, managed in different states, how they're funded, the average, whether they're, a school is a district or 20 schools is a district, and, the ones that have 1,000 kids, and that's very normal, and they couldn't believe that we had 18,000, that kind of thing. There's just, it's handled dramatically different from state to state around the country.
I agree. Yes. I went to a session where one state has 516 school districts.
Oh, wow.
And I can't even fathom what funding looks like with 516 school districts.
Divvy it up.
Just crazy.
It was Illinois, they're bankrupt.
It was not, it was Missouri, but
No, they
I
probably don't
know.
have Act 388, so it's probably all based on local. Yeah, interesting. Anything else?
Nope, it was great. If people have,
Right.
an opportunity to make that happen in the future, I think a national is good for your perspective.
Yep. All right, so Ms. Lordo, I think you get to come back up because we've got a couple action items around bond resolutions.
Yes, and as you know, I like to bring the, all the bond resolutions to you in March for this calendar year. So tonight, we have two for your consideration. The third, we will bring to the April 1st meeting. That one will be our annual 8% capital deferred maintenance listing. That is going through legal review now to make sure that we are in compliance with all legal requirements on that. And then Mr. Romanek will share that with you for your review prior to that April 1st meeting. You can reach out, ask us any questions. But that will be our annual, what we call our annual 8% bond issue list. And also that resolution will have $10.4 million in technology that is under the referendum that was passed for technology. That'll be the piece for the projects this summer. And we'll provide you the detailed list of what those projects are as well. So that'll be our third resolution to consider, and that'll be slightly over 20 million at the April 1st meeting. But tonight, I am asking for approval for two issues. One is the annual issue for the installment purchase revenue bond, the IPRB, and the equipment acquisition. The installment purchase revenue bond portion was the avenue that built Orchard Park Elementary and Springfield Elementary. We have 5 years left on that. We have to, because of the uniqueness of what was allowed under law at that time, we have to do this bond issue with this resolution every year. But that will be for two upcoming payments that total approximately $5.4 million. And then the equipment acquisition portion was for three HVAC replacements that we did in 2017. It was for Orchard Park, Fort Mill Elementary, and Fort Mill Middle. That was a $4.5 million bond issue, and this will be our last payment, I'm happy to say, in December, $499,000. So this will be our last year for that one. So that total resolution, including issuance cost, will be $6,025,000. Any questions about that one? Okay,
Do you want to do them one at a time?
I can keep going and explain the second one, then we can,
Yeah, I'll wait till the end.
Okay.
I got about 7 questions.
On this
Okay.
one or on the other one?
Oh, no, I'll
On
just wait.
IPRB? Are your questions
just in
on
general.
IPRB or are they on the
general
second?
typical.
Okay.
Okay, and then the second one is a great opportunity that we have to refund up to 5 separate bond issues that either have already had their call date, they're eligible now, and 3 of them have a call date next March, which means we can issue and close 90 days prior. So we could do this in December, depending on the market. But these refundings range, the principal ranges from a low of $6,885,000 to a high of $88,735,000. So we're asking in the resolution that you approve an amount not exceeding $235 million. We could refund 1 or we could refund all 5, depending on the market. But the potential savings ranges from $137,700 to a high of $1,774,000. So the total potential savings, if we decide to do all 5, could be a little over $4.5 million for this. And the reason that we have always liked to take advantage of any refunding opportunities, if we can save $1 of taxpayer funding after issuance cost, we have generally brought those to you as an opportunity to consider for any potential savings on bond issues, because our goal is to keep our debt millage as low as we can. And we see this as an opportunity to do that. So we would start monitoring this and work closely with Compass Municipal Advisors. They're our bond financial advisors as far as market conditions and what they determine would be the best timing on these. So we could do 1 at a time, we could do all 5 together, or we could have a combination of any of those, depending on which of these principal amounts the timing is right for versus the interest rates and all. But this would give us the authority to refund up to those 5 bond issues.
Is it like refinancing on your house?
Absolutely, yes. We're going after a lower interest rate on these to save on our, what we have to pass along to our taxpayers in debt millage.
Can you please clarify something for us?
Sure.
Regardless, it's about saving money. Does it extend any of the terms?
It does not extend any of the terms.
You have questions?
I do. So, Ms. Lordo, what is the combined impact of these 2 actions on total district debt, annual debt service, and the tax rate over time?
So I touched on this just a little bit, but we like to look at we have a long-term plan for debt service. And generally, we like to have a minimum amount of fluctuation, meaning we don't want our taxpayers to see that debt service millage going up and then down and up and then down, because that would affect the annual tax payments that they have to make on their property. So we like to structure these where we are leveling the repayment as much as possible, meaning if we have something paying off, we may, when we refund one of these, we would put in the principal payments in a certain year at a higher amount, where we could keep the debt service. Our goal is to lower it a little bit and then keep that level over the repayment of these. We have currently 16 bond issues in total outstanding. We have about $519 million is our total outstanding debt for the district. But the original par on those 16 bonds was $771 million. So we have paid off in excess of $200 million on those bonds. We generally try to structure with as quick of a repayment as we can to save on interest for our taxpayers. But we look at it in total versus individual bonds. We look at it in total when we build the financial repayment plan with our bond financial advisors, with the millage.
Okay.
So our goal would be, we know with these issues, we can maintain the 86 mills. That's going to include what I'm going to bring to you on April 1st, We can maintain at 86 mills based on our current assessed property values. But if we do see a benefit of our assessed value go up any between now and when that millage gets set in the fall, we would reduce that debt millage. Working with the York County Auditor's Office, we'd be able to reduce that debt millage. So that is certainly our goal with these.
Okay.
Does that?
It does. Thank
Okay.
you. Next question. What are the biggest financial or market risks associated with these transactions, and how are we mitigating them?
I think that, as I mentioned, we will start very seriously watching the interest rates, working with Compass Municipal Advisors. There's things that we all know go on in the world right now that are affecting interest rates, and I think that's our biggest risk, is hopefully we'll be able to see this plan be very successful for us, and we won't see those factors coming into play with other things that are going on that we can't control.
Okay.
But to be clear, if we approve that tonight and rates don't come down,
Right.
you're not required. None of these are being.
They
called.
are
We
not
have to change
required,
anything.
and the industry standard on this is if we can't see a 2% savings, then it's not worth doing it and paying the bond issuance cost. So our target is to be able to see the 2% savings on each of these individually or combined to make it worthwhile to do this, and that's what we would look at.
Okay, and last question. After these approvals, how much remaining debt capacity will the district have for future needs?
So the good thing about these issues, the refunding will not affect the legal debt margin. The $6 million issue, because of the uniqueness of being an equipment acquisition agreement and an installment purchase revenue bond, neither one of those affect the legal debt margin.
Okay.
So we still will be at the same level that we were. And we're at about 36 million, meaning if something happened and we had to come to you and say we need to do an immediate bond issue for some HVAC or roof or something that was unexpected, we still would have the same amount of capacity even with these issues if you approve these tonight.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I got.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go. See, you answered one. It's like anytime you're going to
Okay.
redo this, there's a lot of cost associated with that. Just the paperwork that goes into it. So we can't avoid, we've got the financial advisor cost, we've got the legal cost, we've got cost for these bonds to be reviewed by Standard & Poor's or Moody's in New York. We've got some audit cost when they review our official statement. So there are some costs related that we're going to have, and that's why generally we combine some of these issues together. Sure.
To try to save on the bond issuance cost as much as we can.
So what's our monthly cash flow going to improve by not having these, or what is that number going to help us? Let me reword this.
Okay.
We're not going to have these payments anymore. We're going to have these new payments because we're refinancing this debt.
But we don't make monthly mortgage payments like
Right.
we do at
But
home.
we're okay. So we're not
These are
making,
paid. These are paid twice a year. Generally, the principal is paid in March.
Okay.
The way we set these up, and so we'll pay a principal and an interest payment in March 1st every year on our outstanding debt, and we'll make an interest payment only September 1st.
Got it.
And so that is strategic with when tax collections come in the March 1st date.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. That makes sense. All right. Great. Thanks.
Any other questions? I would certainly entertain a motion or two.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration to provide for the issuance and sale of not exceeding $6,025,000 general obligation bonds of Fort Mill School District Number 4 of York County, South Carolina, in one or more series to prescribe the purposes for which the proceeds of such obligations shall be expended to provide for the payment thereof and other matters relating thereto.
Second?
A motion and a second to provide for the issuance and sale not to exceed 6,025,000 general obligation bonds. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries for the first one.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration to provide for the issuance and sale of not exceeding $235 million general obligation funding bonds of the Fort Mill School District Number 4 of York County, South Carolina, to prescribe the purposes for which the proceeds shall be expended to provide for the payment thereof and other matters relating thereto.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second to provide for the issuance and sale not to exceed $235 million general obligation refunding bonds. Is there any discussion on that one? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank
All
you.
right. Let's hope the interest rates come down.
Right, let's go.
With that, those are all of our open session items. We do have an executive session where we need to discuss some personnel recommendations, legal issues, and contractual matters. So with that,
Motion to go into executive session?
we will move into executive session, and we will return to see if there are any actions resulting. All right.
Return to public session.
We are back in open session. While in executive session, we discuss personnel recommendations, legal issues, and contractual matters, but we have no actions to take.